June 6, 1944. 5 a.m. Normandy, Omaha Beach. The world hasn't woken up yet. There is only the sound of waves hitting the sand. Corporal Heinrich Severloh crouches in his trench. He feels cold. The air smells of salt and damp concrete. He is 20 years old. A farmer's son from rural Germany. He loves horses. He loves the land. He never wanted to be a hero, and he certainly never wanted to be a demon. But in the next 9 hours, history will force a terrifying title upon him. A curse that will haunt him for life. The Beast of Omaha. His position is designated when 6 to T's fortress on Omaha Beach. Located on the high ground of the eastern sector, it has a perfect field of fire. Controlling this long stretch of golden sand, by his hand, is an MG-42 general purpose machine gun. The Allies call it Hitler's buzzsaw. Fire rate 1,200 rounds per minute, 20 rounds per second. It sounds like ripping canvas. It is the sound of tearing life apart. Behind him are 12,000 rounds of ammunition. For a machine gunner, this is a dream paradise. But for the men about to step onto this beach, it is the entrance to hell. Heinrich rubs his bloodshot eyes. He stares into the dark ocean. The fog is lifting. And then he sees it. That is not a wave, that is a wall made of steel. 6,000 ships covering the entire horizon. The largest fleet in human history is right in front of him. This is not a war. This is a natural disaster. Before this moment, the Germans were confident. Even arrogant, they believed the Atlantic Wall was impenetrable. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel had inspected this spot personally. He pointed at the sand and said, "The war will be won or lost right here." For this day, the Germans prepared for 4 years. The beach is planted with thousands of Rommel's asparagus, wooden stakes, tipped with mines, designed to tear the bottoms off landing craft. Underwater lies a field of trigger mines. The sand is covered in barbed wire, and concrete bunkers disguised as dunes. The design of WN62 is a stroke of genius. It does not face the sea directly. It faces sideways. This means naval guns cannot easily hit the firing slit, but the gunner can sweep the entire beach from the flank. No blind spots, only kill zones. Heinrich's commander, Lieutenant Fruking, a well-loved officer. He encourages his men one last time. Let them come. Wait until they are in knee-deep water to open fire. They can't run fast in the water. It sounds cruel, but on the battlefield, it is the most efficient mathematics. Las 6:30 a.m. The Allied naval bombardment stops. The world falls into a brief, ringing silence. The young German soldiers peek out. They are shocked to find, despite the ocean being on fire, their bunker is unscathed. Most Allied bombs fell in the farmland behind them or dropped into the sea. The fortifications are intact. The machine gun is working. The gunner is awake. The beast is up, and it is hungry, lending craft bob in the waves, like a pod of clumsy whales, approaching the shore. That is the U.S. 1st Infantry Division, the famous Big Red One, and the 29th Infantry Division. These young men from Kansas, New York, Texas. They were told the bombardment had destroyed the Germans. They thought this would be a walk in the park. They were wrong. Dead wrong. When the ramp of the first boat drops, that iconic metallic clang rings the death knell. Heinrich pulls the trigger. No hesitation. No mercy. The MG-42 roars. Zib. This is not aiming. This is spraying water. The first wave of Americans doesn't even make it out of the water. Bullets punch through the thin wooden boats, through the ocean. The soldiers in the front row fall like wheat before a scythe. Some didn't even get to see what the beach looked like. Before their lives ended, the seawater instantly turns dark red, then bright crimson. Bodies pile up against the anti-tank obstacles, rising and falling with the tide. Heinrich doesn't need to aim. He doesn't even need to see their faces. In that moment, they are no longer people, no longer someone's son, husband, or father. They are just targets in olive drab uniforms. He draws a line of death on the sand. Anything that crosses this line is physically erased. L.T. Fröken observes with binoculars nearby, constantly correcting the angle of fire. Left, 100 meters. There's a group there. Heinrich turns the gun mechanically. His mind is blank. Only muscle memory works. Load. Cock. Fire. Reload. It is a pure, industrialized slaughter. The barrel is glowing red, radiating heat like a branding iron. The air smells of burnt oil, and the warning of an overheated gun. The MG-42 shoots too fast. The barrel turns red hot after continuous fire. It can even warp. Heinrich screams, "Change barrel!" His assistant hands him an asbestos glove. He yanks out the scorching metal tube, throws it on the ground. He slots in a new barrel. Click. They have practiced this move countless times. It takes only seconds. Then, the symphony of death continues. In the short gaps, Heinrich picks up his carabiner 9.8K rifle, his backup weapon. While the machine gun cools down, he snipes with the rifle, specifically targeting officers trying to command or radio men carrying equipment. One shot. One down. 2 shots. 2 down. He wrote in his memoir later, "I didn't need to look for targets. Targets were everywhere. You just fire into the crowd. You can't miss." It sounds like the confession of a cold-blooded killer. But inside that bunker, fear also gripped the Germans, because no matter how many they killed, the enemy kept coming. It is now 9 a.m. The battle has lasted for 3 hours. Logically, suffering such heavy casualties, any army should have collapsed. Any commander should have ordered a retreat, but the Americans didn't. This is the moment Heinrich feels true terror, not because of the enemy fire, but because of the enemy's numbers and a suffocating willpower. 1 boat sinks, 2 charge up. 100 men fall. 200 replace them. It is an unstoppable force of nature. America's mighty industrial machine sent an entire generation of young men onto this beach. Heinrich's fingers begin to cramp. His shoulder is numb from the recoil. His eyes water from the gunpowder smoke. 12,000 rounds, a number he thought he could never finish, is now running low. He begins to panic. He screams for ammo. His assistant runs back and forth in the trench, bringing box after box of tracer rounds. This is the last reserve. Heinrich looks at the beach. It has become a vision of hell. Wounded soldiers screaming. Tanks burning. The sea dyed a gruesome rust red, but he realizes a horrifying truth. He cannot kill them all, no matter how many times he pulls the trigger. That gray-green line keeps moving slowly, like a rising tide, inch by inch. Approaching the bunker, they crawl over the bodies of their comrades. Hiding behind destroyed tanks, some soldiers lost their weapons. So they crawl with their hands. They have only one belief: move forward, because staying on the beach means certain death. Only by reaching the base of that fire-spitting bunker is there a sliver of hope. The tide begins to turn. Amidst chaos and death, the U.S. Army shows its resilience. The assistant commander of the 29th Division, Brigadier General Norman Cota, stands up in the hail of bullets. Chomping on a cigar, waving a pistol, he roars at the soldiers frozen by fear. There are 2 kinds of people on this beach: the dead and those who are going to die. Now get the hell off this beach. The words shoot through the soldiers' nerves like electricity. Fear turns into anger. The Americans start moving. Engineers rush forward to die, blowing gaps in the wire and obstacles. The breach is open. Snipers find positions, suppressing the bunker's fire. That flood of steel begins to infiltrate WN62's defense. Heinrich is no longer the hunter. He has become the prey. On the sea, Allied destroyers make a crazy move. The USS Frankfurt, the USS McCook, these multi-thousand-ton warships, risking mines and grounding, sailed to within 800 meters of the shore. That is point-blank range. The captain orders, aim every gun at those bunkers. If you see smoke, shoot it. It is a devastating blow. Direct naval fire. Boom. The top of WN62 is sheared off. Concrete shards fly like shrapnel. The concussion makes Heinrich's ears bleed. His comrades fall one by one. L.T. Firking is killed. The invincible MG-42 is finally silenced. Not because it jammed, but because the Americans are right in front of them. 3 p.m. The battle has raged for 9 hours. Heinrich fires his last bullet. According to post-war statistics, in these 9 hours, he fired over 12,500 machine gun rounds and 400 rifle rounds. Some estimate, he alone caused over 1,000, maybe even 2,000 casualties. It is one of the highest single-soldier casualty records in modern warfare. It was a one-man slaughter. But he lost. The Americans have climbed over the seawall. Flamethrowers begin to lick the firing slits. Grenades are tossed into the trench. Heinrich throws away the scorching machine gun. He realizes, even if he were the god of war incarnate, he cannot fight an awakened industrial giant. He cannot stop the resolve to die for freedom, dragging his wounded leg. He flees towards the village in the chaos. The next day, is captured. He does not resist. He's too tired. His soul is hollowed out. He is sent to an American POW camp. There, he hides his identity. No one knows this skinny German corporal is the beast that made the entire beach tremble yesterday. If the Americans knew it was him, he probably wouldn't survive the night. The war ends. Heinrich returns to Germany, back to his family farm. He picks up the hoe again and puts down the gun. But he can never put down the memories of that day. Every night, as soon as he closes his eyes, he sees the red beach. He hears the ripping sound of the machine gun. He sees those falling green figures. He dares not watch movies about Normandy. Dares not read books about He lives in deep guilt. Those young Americans, they had parents, they had lovers. But at the age of 20, they ended at the muzzle of his gun. To seek redemption, he begins looking for survivors from that day. It is a long process, and a process of self-punishment. Decades later, he finally finds an American veteran named David Silvar. David was severely wounded that day, nearly died under the guns of WN62. The two former mortal enemies agreed to meet on Omaha Beach. It is the 40th anniversary of D-Day. Heinrich stands on Omaha Beach once again. There are no bodies here anymore. No smoke. Only tourists and seagulls. But he can still smell the blood. He meets David, the man he once tried to kill. Heinrich reaches out a trembling hand. He doesn't know if the man will punch him or speed on him, but David doesn't. The American veteran opens his arms and tightly hugs the German machine gunner. In this moment, the Beast of Omaha dies. All that remains in tears is an old man named Heinrich. David tells him, "We didn't start the war. We were just pawns, with no choice. You survived. I survived. That is God's miracle." Heinrich passed away in 2006. Before his death, he returned to that beach countless times, looking at that endless ocean of white crosses. Every cross represents a severed future, represents a broken family. The ruins of Bunker WN62 still stand there today, overgrown with weeds, staring hollowly at the sea, like a blinded monster, silently telling the madness of war. History gave him a terrifying title, But history also gave us a profound lesson. On Omaha Beach, over 4,700 Americans were killed, missing, or wounded. The Germans had every tactical advantage: terrain, fortifications, firepower, and a perfect machine gunner. But they underestimated one thing. They underestimated the power of free will. When a man knows what he is fighting for, no machine gun can stop him. Not even Hitler's buzzsaw. Not even the Beast of Omaha. This video is dedicated to all the souls sacrificed in Normandy, and to those who survived the fire, but carried the scars for a lifetime. May peace prevail.